Hello. Can somebody confirm you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. All right. Any questions? Pull this up.
I had a question about the unknowns. Whether we were going to be getting the first three tests. Is that going to be coming today, that information?
I'm not ready to send it out, but I hope
Okay.
it'll be ready sometime late tonight. But that's my goal, to try and send that out tonight. Like I said,
Okay.
I'm not ready, but hopefully I'll get there. If it doesn't come tonight, hopefully it'll come tomorrow. I have sent out the unknown number, so check your email about that. In your unknown number, you should put it in your unknown notes pages. You don't need to do it now, but you should do it before you request a test, because if I don't have the unknown number, I can't send you the results to the test you're requesting. All right, today is May 9th, and we're supposed to be doing Lab 8, identification of gram-positive organisms. And hopefully we will begin. Is that right? Hopefully we'll begin working on your unknown project. You'll be working on your unknown project to the end of the term, or at least until June 9th, which is not that long away. We're over halfway in the term now. So it's kind of scary, isn't it? We have only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks left. And then we have the final, if I counted right. All right, any questions about what we're doing? Am I sharing my screen? Yeah,
Yes.
screen. Okay, great. Let me blow that up so I can see it better. The infectious disease paper is due May 13th. That's this Saturday at 11:59 p.m. So if you haven't begun working on your infectious disease paper, you should get started on that. I think everybody has requested a topic, but remember to check the topic with me. I do want everyone to work on a different topic. And I also want to make sure that it's actually an infectious disease. All right. If there's no questions, let's begin with Lab 8. Come on. I think that's it, but it might be this one. Now let's go ahead and open up the exercises. I think that's the one I want, because that one is not going to be highlighted. Yep. So Lab 8, identification of gram-positive organisms. We're going to talk about the gram-positive cocci, and this table has gotten mixed up. Staphylococcus, Enterococcus, Streptococcus are gram-positive cocci. And then we're going to talk about the gram-positive bacilli, Bacillus, Corynebacterium, and I believe Listeria. We have some video clips for you to watch today. And then gram-positive dichotomous key, and some case studies. Let me look on the web page to see how I did that. Come on.
In those mid-60s at sunset, still a great time to be outside, maybe get a walk in before or after dinner. It's a great night to get out and enjoy these beautiful, beautiful views. Now,
all right, Lab 8, the lab module is here. The worksheet is here, and then we have case studies, which you'll be working on. And each of them were given to me separately by the lead instructor. And I'd like to put them all together on one link, but it occurred to me, and it has happened actually, where he will make a change, like on case study 5, and not have the other things. So I decided to keep them as individual links. There's 8 different case studies you have to work on today. And to answer them, you'll be using the dichotomous key here. And then that's a link for turning in your infectious disease research project this Saturday. All right, let's go through the lab module. So upon successful completion of this lab, you should be able to understand the principles and how to interpret the results of the following tests: the CAMP test, the BIOL260 Agar slant test, the SF broth test, and the Optogen sensitivity test. And you should be familiar with using a dichotomous key to solve case studies involving gram-positive bacterial infections. Any questions about these objectives? So when a specimen is received by the microbiology lab for routine culture, the culture is inoculated on a culture media that will facilitate the growth of common pathogens and are placed in physical environments that will support their growth, meaning they're placed in an incubator. Microbiologists can use the colony morphologies and the gram stain to provide important information about the primary classification of the bacteria. However, further biochemical testing is required in this lab to identify the species. In the lab, we're going to talk about the CAMP test, the BIOL260 hydrolysis test, the SF broth test, and the Optogen sensitivity test. Any questions about any of that? All right, the CAMP test is an acronym for the doctors who discovered the CAMP test. In the CAMP test, it stands for, you don't need to know this, Christie, Atkins, and Munch Peterson. That's what CAMP stands for. What you're looking at is an amplified hemolytic effect that some beta hemolytic organisms have in the presence near Staphylococcus aureus. So what you do is you make a single streak of Staphylococcus aureus down a blood agar plate, and Staphylococcus aureus is beta hemolytic. And then perpendicular to that streak, you streak the organism you're testing, or the unknown bacteria. And that is shown here. So this streak would be Staphylococcus aureus. Let me load that up a little. And the pigmented bacteria, it looks kind of reddish here, is the Staphylococcus aureus, and it is not red in color. This red is coming from the blood agar plate, I'm guessing, or maybe the filter on the lens. And this clear region around the Staphylococcus aureus streak is the beta hemolysis of the blood around the Staphylococcus aureus. You then streak the bacteria you're testing this way, and this is Streptococcus pyogenes, and it has no enhanced hemolysis in the CAMP test. Any question about any of that? It is beta hemolytic, but there's no enhanced hemolysis. Listeria, on the other hand, in this part of the streak, away from Staphylococcus aureus, there is no enhanced hemolysis, but in this region of the streak, there is slight enhanced hemolysis. And then Streptococcus agalactiae has greatly enhanced hemolysis. And you can see on the streak here, there's no enhanced hemolysis. And then right there, there's an enhanced hemolysis. And the enhanced hemolysis typically takes an arrow appearance. You know, with that part of the streak, this is the arrow. Any question about that? Anyways, that's the CAMP test. Positive, slightly positive, and negative for the CAMP test. BIOL260 test looks at the hydrolysis of esculin, and this allows us to differentiate Enterococcus from Streptococcus. If the organism hydrolyzes esculin, they will create the product esculatin, which is a dark brown organism, and you'll see a dark brown precipitate happen in the esculin. You need more than 50% of the tube to be dark brown or black, and then we say it is esculin positive. If it's less than 50% or no darkening, no black or bright dark brown, then we say it's esculin negative. Streptococcus species, meaning the family Streptococcus, is esculin negative, and Enterococcus species, or the family Enterococcus, is esculin positive. SF broth test stands for Streptococcus faecalis, which is an old name for the species. It is now called Enterococcus faecalis, but the test is still called the SF broth test after the old name of Streptococcus faecalis. Any questions about that? If the organism can ferment the sugar, glucose, in the SF broth test, it will change the color from purple, which is SF broth negative, to yellowish, which is SF broth positive. And what happens is the glucose is metabolized, creating acids, which create a decrease in the pH, which makes the color yellow from the pH indicator. Any questions about any of that? So Streptococcus species are negative, and they'll be purple in the SF broth test. Enterococcus faecalis is positive, and it'll be positive or yellow. Excuse me, in the SF broth test. In the Optogen sensitivity test, we're going to be differentiating between Streptococcus pneumonia and other alpha hemolytic streptococci. Streptococcus pneumoniae is sensitive to Optogen, which is an antibiotic. And what you do is you take the bacteria that you grow up, which is alpha hemolytic, and then you streak it on the plate, and then you put the disc containing Optogen on. If you have a zone of inhibition of greater than 14 millimeters, then the bacteria is sensitive to the optogen, and we say that it is sensitive, optogen sensitive. And Streptococcus pneumonia is sensitive to optogen. If the bacteria, on the other hand, is resistant to optogen, and that means that there's no zone of inhibition, or the zone of inhibition is less than 14 millimeters, then we say it is optogen resistant, and it is not Streptococcus pneumoniae. It is another species of Streptococcus, which is alpha hemolytic. Any questions about that? Now remember, to be resistant, you just have to have a zone of inhibition less than 14 millimeters. All right, so that's the test. Let me talk a little bit about dichotomous keys. Microbiologists use a dichotomous key for a test they perform, and the test shows you how to derive at your solution what the species is for the species, what the identification is. And it uses dichotomous key where each step you're separating it out into two choices. Like in the Gram stain, all bacteria can undergo the Gram stain. Some will be Gram positive, some will be Gram negative. If it's Gram positive, we throw out these species, and we have the Gram-positive bacillus and the Gram-positive cocci. If it is catalase positive, then we throw out the catalase negative, which are Streptococcus and Enterococcus, and so it's going to be the Staphylococcus family. If it is then coagulase positive, it'll be Staphylococcus aureus. If it'll be coagulase negative, it's some other Staphylococcus species, and you can run the Novobiocin test to determine whether it's epidermidis or Streptococcus saprophyticus. There, I got it. Sorry, I'm got a frog in my throat today. And I've been swallowing, trying to clear that frog, but it's not clearing. Anyways, we use a dichotomous key. You will need to use the dichotomous key to do your case studies today, and you have 8 of them. We'll go through a little bit of that now. In the exercises, let me go to the exercises. Remember, only turn in the exercises. We have videos for you to watch on the SF broth test and the BIOL260 test, and a video to watch on the CAMP test. Then fill in this table for the following tests. You'll need to refer to some of the previous labs as well as this lab, but all of the tests have been discussed in one of the labs, and it may be a previous lab. So on this test, we have the optogen sensitivity test today, the SF broth test today, and the BIOL260 test today, and the CAMP test today. But the bacitracin test we discussed in a previous lab, the oxidase test, the coagulase test, the catalase test, and the negative stain for determining if the cell has capsules, and the Schaefer-Fulton test, and then the Gram stain we've discussed in previous labs. So refer to the previous lab to get the result. The first test, the gram stain has been filled in for you. So on the gram stain, if it's a positive result, we'll see purple cells. And if it's gram negative, we'll see pink cells. So that's been filled in. So fill that in for the Schaefer-Fulton stain for endospores, and then the negative result. Then what you see with a capsule, and you can try and write less than a phrase here, but this one you probably need to go more than one word. And then a negative result, discuss that. Catalase, say what you see. Coagulase, all of these, say what you see. So fill that in and then do the case studies. We have a link here that you can go through if you want extra test on using a dichotomous T. Dichotomous key. It goes through how to use a dichotomous key and then gives you, I think, several examples. Then open up your dichotomous key for this lab to work on the case studies. So go to the lab and open up the dichotomous key. And this won't open the best because it'll be in Canvas. It'll be better if you download it. Oh, look at that. You have to download it. Didn't remember I required that. Come on. That's not right. Did I grab the wrong page? Ah, right. That's the one I want. So the first thing is the gram stain and the dichotomous key. Gram-positive cocci are shown here. The gram-positive bacilli are here, and then you go to the next page for the bacilli. So the gram-positive bacilli are here. You separate it first into, is it an anaerobe or an aerobe? The anaerobes are Clostridium species, and this lab is not looking at them. We're looking at the aerobes. And then we have the endospore positive, it'd be a bacillus species. And for this dichotomous key, the non-positive endospores, meaning endospore negative, will be Listerius and Corynebacterium. And then we can split these two by looking at the hemolysis. This is used looking at the beta, or at least the hemolytic activity on blood agar plates. If it's beta hemolytic, it'll be Listeria monocytogenes. And if it's gamma hemolysis, it'll be Corynebacterium species. All right, any question about that? That's how you use it. Let me warn you about this right here. The alpha, gamma, and beta refers to the blood agar plate. So we're looking at the hemolytic activity. And you have to separate these one step further. Alpha hemolysis by the Optochin test, beta hemolysis by the basotracin test, and then the gamma hemolysis by the esculin and the SF broth test to separate these two. All right, any questions about any of that? All right, let's return to the worksheet. So then go through the case studies and list what your results are that are given to you. And where do you write the results down here? Oh, these are what the organisms are going to be. Yeah, you'll need a separate piece of paper to write your results down and then identify the case studies. Let's go through the case study. Hmm. Come on. I'll just go through case study 1. Actually, I have it here. Case study 1. A 13-year-old teenager attended a week-long scout camp. Upon returning home, his mother notices a pustule beginning to develop on his arm, and it looks like a spider bite. The area is warm to touch and is becoming extremely painful. When her son starts running a fever, she takes him into a walk-in medical clinic for evaluation. The physician orders a gram stain of the exudate and a routine laboratory culture. Here are the findings. There's the gram stain. Those are his own cells, and those are bacteria, which are gram-positive cocci, which the lab is gram-positive cocci or gram-positive bacilli. And then they take these and then streak it on a blood agar plate, and you can see the hemolytic activity on the blood agar plate. And then they do the catalase test, and there's the results of the catalase test. And then they do the coagulase test, and there's the results of the coagulase test. And then further, they took some of this bacteria and streaked it on the mannitol salt agar plate. And this is showing you the results of the mannitol salt agar. And I believe we discussed this in a previous lab. If something can grow on mannitol salt agar, that means it's a halophile that likes salt, because mannitol salt agar has 70% sodium chloride. And it can also ferment the sugar mannitol. And if it ferments the sugar mannitol, you'll see a specific color, and you can take a look at this plate and determine that here. So then the question is, what bacteria was isolated? Come and take a look at the dichotomous key. Did I shut that down? I think I shut that down. Well, let's see if I have it here. There it is. So I already told you it's a gram-positive cocci, and follow what the catalase test was. We then did a coagulase test, which is here, or actually that's the only coagulase test. And then after the coagulase test, did we do a novobiocin test? I don't think we did a novobiocin test. We come back. So what's the bacteria? Oh, we did a mouse salt agar test, which I don't have on the key. All right. Any questions on how to do this? If not, I will be here to help answer any questions. I'll be here until 8 o'clock or until the last student logs off. Lately, you guys have been logging off early. And if you are sharing answers, I'm going to warn you that you have to word all the answers in your own words. All right. If there's no questions, I'll get started on the lab.
Dr. Wolby, could you tell me again the first 3 tests that you're going to be doing?